Last case, number 16042, 7 to 15 Parker Street, in CELA manager for a special permit variance to construct a 32-unit residential building on the premise number 151 Granite Street, aka 713-1521 Parker Street. The applicant and representative here. Counsel Harrington. Counsel, before you do this, just so the board knows, we get a letter from Jay, he handed us tonight. It says, unfortunately, I cannot attend the ZBA meeting in person. I have received notice from constituents who are in opposition to this project and would appreciate the opportunity and more time to defend their case. On my behalf, I hope you would kindly ask the ZBA for continuance on this project here until the next public ZBA. Thank you, Dan Kane. What I have to say about that is we had a year that was approved in April from the planning board. This has been going on. They've had plenty of meetings. My opinion, I say hear the case. That's just my opinion. Mr. Duke, if you give us a background on it, I know there's been many, many hearings. There's been, this was on and on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There have been many, many hearings. The applicant has done a lot to streamline and make the project a good project. I would tell this board that they should look at the fact that the planning board passed this special permit. I would look at that as a positive recommendation for the planning board.
And that was in April.
And that was in April 1st.
Are we allowed to speak right now?
No. Any comments?
No.
Well, asking for a continuance with the guy, council asked for a continuance. I just think since April, it's had been approved from the planning board. It's been going on for over a year.
He hasn't cast a vote.
No, I'm not saying that, but it's 6 months.
Did he have another?
I'm fine with it.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay. What was the purpose?
Idiot.
What was the reason in the letter that he asked for?
He says he has some people in opposition that he wants to help build their case in opposition. I just think it's been a long time. It really has. It's been a long time, and it's tough being a council and getting in and trying to get everything done, but this was done in April. They had planning boards to go to, they had meetings. How many other meetings
There
did
have
we
been many
have?
meetings. I'm sure the attorney
Coughlin
can
had
talk.
meetings, right?
I suspect too that these are the same folks that attended the planning board hearings
Mhm.
that were opposed. The planning board
No.
did vote to approve the project. But
Man, please.
there was opposition, some opposition.
Mhm.
The planning board voted, and I would look at that as a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Duper. Continue, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Christopher Harrington. My law office is at 21 McGrath Highway, and I represent Anton CELA, who is the applicant on this application. We began this process back in the fall of 2014. We had a neighborhood meeting in the winter of 2015, January or February. Filed the application with the planning board in April of 2015, and it took almost an entire year to get an affirmative vote from the planning board to approve this project. The biggest issues, obviously, are the rock. It's the site itself, it's the rock, it's blasting, how will the blasting be done, how will that work be carried out, and it took a year to get satisfactory answers from the planning board to all the questions that they had about the site work to prepare this site for this building. But they did approve site plan review in April, issued their decision, and that decision is now past the appeal period, so there's no appeal on that decision. With me this evening is Anton CELA, the applicant, Mike Joyce from Joyce Consulting, Arthur Chu is the architect, Tom Fennick from McPhail Associates is with me, he's our geotechnical engineer, also Andy Dufour, who's an expert at drilling with Maine, drilling and blasting, and Jack Gillen, the traffic engineer on this project, is also here if you have any questions from him specifically about traffic. This application is an application for a special permit to do a multifamily building in the Business C zoning district, as well as dimensional variances. And we're asking asking to construct a 32-unit residential building in the Business C zoning district. This project, one of the dimensional variances that we're asking for is this, the ordinance has a footnote that says that if you do a multifamily building in Business C, you need a 42,000 square foot lot. We have a 32,891 square foot lot. That's one of the variances that we're asking for. We're also asking for a variance for the side yard setback and the front yard setback. On this particular project, the hardship for the variances is very clear. There's absolutely no question that the hardship on this property relates to the soil conditions, the shape, and topography. This property has all three. The lot is an unusual shape. It's covered with ledge, and the topography changes from 46 feet to 102 feet at the back. The financial hardship, again, is an obvious one, the cost of site work and the cost of blasting in order to prepare this property for this building. We've, as I said, we've been through site plan review. We've submitted geotechnical reports, expert testimony, stormwater management, the ledge removal, the blasting, traffic impact, traffic analysis, parking, and access for pedestrians and vehicles onto the site and off of this site. The specific variances that we're asking for, the heaviest amounts of ledge on this property are along this side of the building and through the back. And for that reason, the building is pushed over close to Granite Street and close to Parker Street to avoid the heaviest part of the ledge and to minimize the amount of blasting and the amount of rock that has to be removed from the site in order to build the building. So one of the variances that we're asking for is the setback requirement. The setback requirement on this side of the building is 16.8 feet. Our setback is 9.5 feet in the middle. It's greater than what's required in the back, greater than what's required in the front. The average on the side is more than what's required, but it is 9.5 feet at the smallest location here. On the front, our setback here is 12.8 feet. Again, 16.8 is what's required. The average is more than 16 feet. It's more than 16 feet here, here, and here, but at that point it's 12.8. So we've asked for variances for the front yard setback and also the side yard. The other variance we're asking for is to have a 32,000 square foot lot. We believe that all the factors that are required for granting a variance are present on this site. There are definitely soil conditions, shape and topography, and a financial hardship that justify granting a variance. If this lot was a 42,000 square foot lot, it would be 84 units by right under our zoning. Our zoning allows 500 square feet of land per unit in Business C if you have a 42,000 square foot lot or more. So this would be an 84 unit building if the lot was bigger. Even at 32,000 square feet, using 500 square feet per unit, it would be a 64 unit building. It's not either of those things. We're proposing a 32 unit building on a 33,000 square foot lot, and our lot area per dwelling unit is over 1,000 square feet per unit, which is less than, it's double the amount of land that's called for in the ordinance, and it's less than half the density that the ordinance would allow. We've also have, the building is a 3.5 FAR is allowed in Business C. Our FAR is 1.46, so again, the building is less than half the maximum density that this building could be in Business C. It is not an overly large building, and it's not an overly dense building for the zoning district where it is. This property is not in the Parker Street neighborhood. This property is on Granite Street. It has a Granite Street address and has Granite Street frontage, and this building is designed to be a Business C, Quincy Center, Granite Street building, and that's how the entire thing was designed. With me this evening is Arthur Chu, the architect. I'm going to introduce him first to talk to you about the building, about its size and the units and all of that, and we'll turn it over to Mike Joyce, who's the civil engineer. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel.
The building is designed as a 32-unit building. It works its way into the hill
Name and
as
address first, please. Sorry.
Arthur Chu, 1 Billings Road, Quincy, Mass.
Thanks.
Architect. The 32 units, and it works its way in the hill where facing Granite Street it's 7 stories, but on the back, on the top of the hill, it's only 4 stories.
Hey, can you show it to everyone?
Sure. There are 48 parking spaces. $28 of them coming off of Granite Street. And then on the rear of the building, there are 20 units on the upper level, on the level above. There are 2 levels of parking. Every floor has 8 levels. So there's 3 floors with 8 levels. The unit size is about 964 square feet per unit. There are 2-bedroom, 2-bath units.
8 units, you mean, every floor has 8 units, is that correct?
Yeah.
2 bedrooms and 2 baths each unit. Then on the upper floor, there's 8 more units that are 1,500 square feet. They duplex out to a sort of a mezzanine type level. It's not a full floor. That provide living area in the top unit with the deck on each, in front of each unit. The building footprint is 9,700 square feet, and the materials we're using is a metal panel and a hardy board system to break down the scale of the building. This is the difference in grade elevation coming up.
Michael Joyce with Joyce Consulting Group, 100 Wyman Road, Braintree, with the engineers for the project. As Arthur had mentioned, it's an existing 33,000 square foot lot with a multifamily home on it. Multifamily home, the associated garage would be demolished. Proposing to construct a 32-unit building with 48 parking spaces. 29 on the first level, which would be accessed from the Granite Street driveway here, and 19 on the second level of parking, which would be accessed from Parker Street here. The proposed stormwater, currently there's no stormwater collection on site. We'll be proposing 9 Cultec infiltration units below grade to collect the rooftop runoff. Would be directed into the infiltration chambers. Chambers during heavy storms would overflow into the city of Quincy drainage system. All the drainage has been designed in compliance with the Mass Stormwater Handbook, and there'd be no overall increase in the rate of runoff from the site as required. The driveway runoff will be collected by trench drains and catch basins treated by storm scepter units and directed to the city drainage system as well. The reason for the 2 levels of parking, or the reason for the access on opposite sides, is, as Arthur had mentioned, the height difference between Granite Street and Parker Street. There's approximately a 55-foot difference in elevation from front to back. So we'd be coming straight in on Granite Street. It'd actually be sloping, the driveway sloping down to the second level of parking. The project will also include new utilities, new water and fire, domestic water and fire connections, new gas connections, new sewer connection. It will be all the access from Granite Street will be ADA compliant, and there'll be 2 handicap parking spaces within the first floor of the parking garage. And that's about it from a civil engineering standpoint. If there's any questions.
So you're saying there's like 4 floors of 8 units and 2 floors of parking? Is that what I got here?
Yes.
Okay.
Also with us tonight is Tom Fennick from McPhail Associates, the geotechnical engineer, and Andy Dufour from Maine Drilling and Blasting.
My name's Andy Dufour. I'm with Maine Drilling and Blasting, 296 West Street, Milford, Massachusetts. I'm here to talk a little bit about the blasting and how we'd approach the blasting on this project. There's roughly 11,000 cubic yards that would have to come out of here in order to gain the footprint to this building. For the blasting process, we'd start with pre-blast surveys. Any home within 250 feet of the blast zone would get a pre-blast survey before we could obtain the permit. How we would approach the site from a blasting standpoint, we'd take advantage of the natural relief and the grade. We would start back here and work our way in. We would design all blasts to be appropriate and safe for the closest structure. That's 2 inches per second per CMR 13. We do that by controlling our charge weight per delay in each borehole. So we have to determine how much rock we need to fragment and the closest structure, and we start from there to determine a safe vibration limit for the neighboring homes. When the actual blasts take place, there'll be traffic control on Granite Street and Parker Street. We'll have sentries placed to make sure the blast zone is safe. All blasts will be covered with blasting mats, which are recycled tires. They're 12 by 24. They weigh 11,000 pounds each, and we will typically put 2 or 3, so we'll double or triple mat to prevent any rock from leaving the blast zone. There's a series of horns and whistles. They start at 5 minutes with 3 long whistles. Then there's 2 short whistles at 1 minute. Then the blast detonates, and when the blaster is determined that the blast site is safe, there's 1 whistle and it's all clear, and traffic gets released and everybody goes back to work. So that's a synopsis of how we would approach.
How many blasts roughly we talk?
We have about 20 blast days, and we'd probably start with about 2 a day. When we got into the meat of the site, we might be able to take one bigger one, getting the same production, but it's going to depend on the blast design and what we have to do to control the vibrations.
Did you say 20 days?
20 days, yes. That's a blasting. We will, before we start blasting, we're actually going to do what's called perimeter control. Because of the deep cut here, we're actually going to drill a hole every 8 inches on center without explosives in it to create any back break beyond where we want the rock to stop breaking. So that operation will take place beforehand. There'll be 20 days of blasting, of actually blasting with explosives.
So before drilling all those holes, before you get your permit, you do the whole area?
We have to pre-blast survey before the first the explosion. Yes, we have to pre-blast survey anyone who wishes to have a survey within 250 feet of the closest borehole.
And how do you notify the applicant at their home or the person that might?
How the regulations read, the CMRs, it can start with a door hanger or a knock on the door. We have to provide 3 attempts, 1 being a certified letter. Yeah, and that's what we bring down to fire prevention when we apply for the permit.
Questions?
I have a question. How has, people have this idea of blasting in their heads. How has the business industry changed in 20 years?
In
Or the engineering?
Yeah, it's a lot. So the technology of the initiation system is really where the technology has grown. So, you picture the Clint Eastwood puffing on his cigar, lighting the cap and fuse and running away. I mean, those days are over. They're over. We're over. And it's kind of funny. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and we've got some pictures of our owner, running to duck behind his car, and that was considered the site security plan. That's all behind us now. They actually have what are called electronic detonators now, which each blasting cap has a computer chip in it that you can program down to the millisecond. So what that does is it takes out any of what's called cap scatter, any of the holes overlapping and going off at the same time and creating a greater vibration. So it's in the initiation system where the technology has really come a long way. It's how each individual blast hole goes off and at what time it goes off. So you could have 1 borehole, and in these depth of cuts, you could have 3 blasting caps in it, and they're going off at a millisecond apart. So it's a series in one complete blast, the aggregate of it, it's a series of little microblasts, and each one's going off milliseconds apart to control the vibration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just a question about fireworks. No questions.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, I'm Tom Fennick with McPhail Associates. We're geotechnical engineers. We're located at 2269 Massachusetts Avenue in Cambridge. We were hired back in March 2016 to do a geotechnical survey of the property. And the way we did that was we did geological mapping of the rock that you can see at the ground surface, the large outcrops. And we also, in conjunction with Main Drilling and Blasting, Andrew's firm, we did a bunch of rock probes. And the main reason to do the rock probes is to determine the top of the rock for purposes of estimating how much rock needs to be removed. And what we ended up finding from that survey was this area back here has been explained as high rock, but it drops off fairly steeply, and there actually is a substantial amount of soil on this part that will have to be removed before they even get to the rock. So that's how we establish how much, bedrock is there. One other thing, I don't know if Andrew touched on it, but there will be vibration monitoring when the blasting is going on. There will be seismographs will be stationed at the property line, and there will be multiple seismographs. And the owner will probably also engage McPhail Associates to have a separate set, basically a third-party seismograph setup, just to make sure that the levels conform with US Burke Mines criteria,
It will be required as part of the blasting contractor to provide those readings every day to the daily fire detail from Quincy Fire, so we have to provide those readings, so they're inspecting us daily.
Yep. So as the blasting is going on, the other part of this whole thing is to make this excavation safe, because it is, a good 30-foot cut over here to up to 40-foot, of rock cut back here. And in order to make it safe, as Andrew described, there's going to be first a series of dowels are going to be drilled in to pre-stabilize the rock face in advance of the drilling and blasting. And then the drilling and blasting will take place in lifts. It won't be taken out all at once. It'll be taken off in, 2 20-foot depths and taken off. And as the rock is being excavated down, McPhail Associates will be on site to observe the rock face, take measurements, geological measurements, and then there will be a contingency to add rock bolts that will stabilize the rock face to make sure that as the excavation is proceeding down, the rock face stays stable. Along the front, where there is a substantial amount of soil, the excavation support won't be straight rock. It'll be partly soil, partly rock. So what we'll probably do is design a set of soldier piles that will be drilled into the rock, and that will retain the soil. And then when you get to the rock, then it's going to be an open face rock cut with rock bolts as necessary. The last thing I want to touch on is drainage. As the excavation, as you see on rock cuts, driving down the highway, you'll see water weeping out of the rock, ice dams forming, that sort of thing. In order to mitigate that, we put drainage in to collect any drainage that may seep through the rock that gets collected down in a drainage system at the lowest level, and then it will be directed out probably to the infiltration systems, which in turn is, will end up into the city storm drain system. That's all I had. Is there any questions?
Just out of curiosity, what type of rock is it?
It's granite.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything unusual about this site in terms of increased risk situation, or is that atypical to this site that you haven't worked with before?
No, it's very typical. It's just important. I've seen these kinds of projects done without any engineering input, and I won't say any in particular, none that I was involved with, but with proper engineering, this can be a very safe excavation. And probably there's going to be a lot more bells and whistles are going to be put into this earth retention system or rock retention system than you would normally see on a highway, because the consequences of a rock slope failure are much more significant here than they would be on a highway. So there'll be a lot of rock bolts and the dowels that are put in beforehand to make sure it's stable.
Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, the final item we asked for was a special permit. The planning board also granted us a special permit site plan review back in April. And in their decision, they went through all the criteria for granting a special permit to the city of Quincy that the community needs are served by this proposal. This proposal will have an affordable housing component for this city's affordable housing trust. This property is in Business C. It's not in the Quincy Center zoning district, so it's not exempt from providing affordable housing. This site is, if you look at the zoning map for the city, this is the last parcel that's in Quincy Center. This is where the Business C zoning district ends. The next parcel on the other side of Parker Street is, I believe, Residence B. So this is the end of Quincy Center, this parcel. And this is intended to be part of the Quincy Center redevelopment to bring new housing into Quincy Center to help redevelop Quincy Center for the future. The traffic and pedestrian flow and safety was analyzed up and down by the peer review engineer, the city's traffic engineer.
You've had peer review on everything.
Everything has been peer reviewed on this project. The adequacy of the public utilities and the water flow tests performed before the site plan review was approved. The neighborhood character for this area, I will be the first to admit that this building does not match houses that are up Parker Street. This building is not in that neighborhood. This is a Quincy Center building, and it's not an unusual building for Quincy Center, particularly considering the large high-rise residential buildings that are right next door to this property on Granite Street. All of the impacts on the natural environment have been mitigated with the stormwater management plan that was set in place by Mr. Joyce. And the potential fiscal impacts, this is proposed to be a condominium building, so 32 brand-new owner-occupied condominium units is excellent new growth for the city of Quincy, excellent tax revenue growth for the city to help pay for the city services. And so in closing, we believe that this project meets all the criteria for a special permit for multifamily, and also that it absolutely meets all the criteria for granting a variance based on the soil conditions, shape, and topography of this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor? Step forward, name and address.
Kevin Atkins, distinguished members of the board. My name is Peter O'Connell. I am general partner of two of the buildings that abut the site. 125 Granite Street, which is Granite Place, 10-story, 270 unit, and 99 Granite, which is 52 unit. And we've watched this project with great interest, obviously, with the amount of investment we have next door. Our principal concern was the blasting. We have closely talked to Maine Building and Blasting and very satisfied. And I can tell you that we removed probably 150,000 yards of granite from Granite Place almost 40 years ago. And I can tell you that we did not have the safeguards and systems that they have in place. The building inspector would know that, but all went well and the building was built. But I can tell you this, I'm impressed with what they're doing. They're putting a monitoring system on the building, and we have no opposition to the development. We think it is part of the downtown, and I think it will be a good addition to the city.
Thanks. Is there anyone else want to speak in favor? First call, second call. Third call closed. I have a letter here from the DPW. I guess they've been satisfied. It says here, we reviewed the above referenced project and have no comments. So there's no add-ons or additions or extractions. Is there anyone opposed or undecided? Please step forward, state your name and address for record. If anyone else would like to speak, please come up now.
My name is Maria Turova, and I live right across from where this project is taking place. I want to explain a little bit 20 Parker Street. so it's right across the street.
Mhm.
I want to explain a little bit about what happened with Ian's email. He found out that certain people that were abutters were not notified, and I was one of them. I live right across the street. It's beyond me why I never received a letter. I didn't attend the planning board committee. I don't know what was granted there. The only letters I've received have been 2 letters. One where the meeting was canceled without notice, which I attended, and the one here today. So I feel like I'm very unprepared. In addition to that, I feel like there's other neighbors who have not received notice. Me being the person that's right across the street, I have an intense interest in this. Currently I have legal representation, but I still don't feel like I'm ready to go on and digest all of this information. So I have, considering that I live across the street and I wasn't given notice, I question whether there's other neighbors on the street who also are on the same boat. There are people here who object. These are, if you guys can stand up, all the Parker Street
They can all speak
objectors
for
at the
themselves,
bar.
that's fine.
No, they're going to stand up so you guys can see them, and some of them will speak, some of them are not going to speak, because not everybody can do public speaking. I just want to also introduce my attorney, Michael Rabia. He will be asking them some questions. And I do also want to read an email from us, 2 emails actually, from us to Jay Dugas, where I was inquiring about this project, and I specifically said that I live across the street, I heard there's something going on, please let me know what the plan is. I have a response here that says, I do not have any information regarding this proposal. My follow-up was, we just found out that the project he was inquiring about earlier is listed under 151 Granite Street, Quincy, Mass. Do you have any further information on this? Some of our neighbors were notified in a letter, and they went to a meeting at the restaurant called Sons of Italy in Forest Street in Quincy on March 18th at 7 o'clock. We would have strongly liked to attend, but we were never notified. However, our house is the closest neighboring house next door to this project. Any information you might have on the project and on next steps for the project would be really helpful. We want to make sure we are up to date on what is happening and get notification for the next meeting. We also want to make sure our opinion is heard and vote cast. Again, I'm very disappointed we haven't been part of this. I wonder if there's other neighbors who haven't. But let me speak to what is going on right now and the reasons why I object about the variances that are being asked.
You were notified of this meeting, correct?
I was, yes.
Okay,
This
because
is,
you're on the list.
yes. And that
The
is
city
because,
didn't hold any other meeting, so it's not up to the city to,
well, the planning board, and before we started here, you said that there's been a year of meetings where all of
There
these
has
have been
been.
discussed. What I would have strongly liked to attend, and I would have liked to have been represented, considering it's
but
a
that's not our
process.
job. My
I
job
understand
and
it's
these guys' jobs are just sit here at this meeting.
Ian's job was that, and he sent you a letter telling you that we request additional time considering this has occurred.
This has been going on over a year.
And we have
The
followed
applicant
up.
has
It's
a
not my
right
job
here.
to follow up either. And
Not
we
here to
followed
argue
up.
with you, ma'am, I'm not. I'm just telling you, that was our decision and we decided that. So you have the floor, please speak.
Okay.
You have 7
We are
minutes, by
asking
the
for a
way.
variance. Variants are supposed to be granted under special and rare circumstances. I do not believe that what they said right now meets those conditions. I heard something about profits, something about it being too expensive considering they're doing the plastic, so they're asking for these variances. Who asked them to pick this lot that is so difficult, that is made of granite rock? I live next door. I do not want, if they have their legal right to build whatever they want, but I will not approve of any variances. They need to stick to the law and do what's right. I am also concerned about the water and sewer. I've had a chance to review what is being done. I'm sure you guys are aware about what's going on with Packard's Lane, which is a street right across from us. That is a hill that looks identical to our street. The water there in the winter is like a river. What happened with the High Point condominium and the other, there's another name for the new development that's there, Avalon Bay, definitely impacted them. There's water going through that street that is disrupting their the flooring, and the neighbors are very upset they're getting flooding. I don't know how those neighbors are being remedied. I don't want to see the same thing happen to my street. It's very similar to those two streets. Has a study been done to compare them? In addition, I'm concerned about the traffic. The hill is very steep. They will be adding more parking and more people going through the area. There's already been 2 accidents in the last month or so. Concerned about overcrowding, but that's a different story. Concerned about the electric system in Quincy. There's been electrical fires in our street before. The retirement housing next door, they are also overpopulated. They have, let's say, 600 people living there. If you look up, the electric wires are so thick and not safe. I do not want to add to the problem. And I'm concerned about the blasting. I haven't been convinced that I will be protected as a next door neighbor from any hardship I might encounter from the blasting. I know there's other neighbors that are not here today that intend to appeal it. There is a case of a woman who has lived on the street forever and is now looking to move because she's heard about this project. She's not here today, but I would like to have her speak to me. I am an attorney. I want to inform her about what her legal rights are. And we need to gather again and have another hearing. I just want to let the board know that I intend to appeal this, if the decision is yes, whether it's now or whether it's after we have more time. I think that if you grant a continuance now, you have a better chance at it not being overturned at appeals, because then we would have had enough time to learn about our rights and understand what's going on. If you say yes right now, you will hear from my attorney and I will be appealing. I think there's other neighbors that also want to speak.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Krista Lester. I live at 18 Parker Street. I'd like to appeal to the sympathies of the board for a moment because I lost my husband in 2014, and this is the first meeting that I've been cognitively able to attend because I've been so grief-stricken for 2 years. So I also would like to request more time to think about this idea. I also want to share with you that I left my building just about 2 weeks ago, walked down Parker Street, and saw a person lying unconscious in the middle of the street with 2 cars and people gathered around because somebody had hit a pedestrian right at the bottom of our street. This is not the first time this has happened. It's not the second time I've seen this happen. It's not the third time I've seen this happen in the 8 years I have lived at 18 Parker Street. I am terrified of the thought of adding 19 new parking spaces that have to enter going up Parker Street. Also, that hill in the wintertime is not wide enough for more than 1 car. When the snow is plowed, there is 1 lane of traffic, and I pray that there's not going to be a car coming down toward me when I'm going up that hill, because it is icy and it is dangerous. I'm also concerned about the blasting and about being notified about the dates of the blasting, because I have a dog who could very easily die as a result of blasting noises and tremors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lester. Anyone else? Opposed or undecided?
Good evening, board members. My name is George Lee. I'm at 39 Parker Street. I'm here to oppose the project. I lived at Parker Street since 2004. In 2005, there was a blasting project. 2 houses from me, there's 5 houses now. It was a sideshow. They blasted for 5 weeks. They skipped the series of warning, the whistles. They didn't have a police detail. They didn't have a fire detail. I called for the police department. I called for the fire department. The city was not involved in this after they stamped the okay. I'm opposing this project for a number of reasons. That's the major reason. Second of all, I've lived there for 11 years, 12 years, and the traffic, pedestrian and car, going up and down Granite Street is crazy. It's just, how are they gonna stop all pedestrian and car traffic during the blasting time? And that's twice a day. And maybe they know something I don't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Ken Weissel. I live at 16 Parker Street, just across the street from where this project's going to be. I opposed to this project because of all the reasons that the other folks have spoken, and then also one major element is that I don't think the neighbors are well notified. The first time we got the letter, the planning get postponed. Every time get postponed, people have a hard time following up. When this meeting going to eventually happen. So, and then I think this is a bad idea with all the rocks and the barely a two-family. You're gonna blast everything out, build a high rise there. The traffic is really bad. Cars going down from this slope, and with all the people also from outside going to the two plaza, this is not the ideal location to build a 30-unit apartment, and then that's a black spot for all the accident that happened there. And I was looking before this meeting. I was looking at all the meeting minutes. I've seen people try to get in fire, rebuild their house, for a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom, get rejected. One not, I don't know the reason, but this shouldn't be the case. But you can't. I don't see this happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kevin O'Malley. I live at 42 Counsel Street. I'm concerned about the project here. When you're driving down Parker Street, you don't have a clear sight line down to GRANITE. And it's one thing in the good weather, you deal with it as is. Somebody's crossing. Bad weather, the winter time. I believe we have a real public safety issue here. You're coming down the hill, different times I'm doing it slowly from the top with snow on the ground. And you're going downhill, you start out downhill, you're not ending up downhill that way. You're coming down at an angle off. It's a tough spot. I'm concerned with this, these many people coming into a multi-unit building like this. You're going to have to be really careful. It's a real concern. Additionally, I'm very concerned about blasting the ledge. It's in close proximity to my house. Granite Block Foundation is doing people in Quincy. And there's some pump, I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Opposed or undecided?
How you doing? John Rutherford, 62 Bremwell Road, Quincy, Mass. I actually videotaped the planning meeting, so if anyone wants to watch that meeting, go to quincytaxpayers.com or to my YouTube channel, and you can see that meeting. That was the first ever planning meeting I ever went to. It was like a circus that night. Just because the planning board makes a positive recommendation doesn't mean they've made a good recommendation, okay? So you guys are here, okay, to back up. It's a two-party government almost. So let's say if the planning people make a bad decision, you guys are a safety net. And there's no doubt I have a lot more respect for the zoning board members than I do for the planning board members. It's not even close, okay? Now, one thing we gotta talk about, this property was advertised in the multiple listing. I'm a real estate broker. Tom McFarland, who is the brother of Mike McFarland, was, I believe, one of the people that had the listing. And it was even advertised in the MLS listing that they could do future development here. So they almost made promises to these people, which I don't think you guys can deliver in all good faith. I mean, this is worse than the Dunkin' Donuts thing. They were talking about a year ago using a different method that wasn't gonna make damage to everyone's properties. Now they're gonna use a method that's cheaper, that's gonna cause damage. They're gonna be blasting, they're gonna be trucking rocks away. It seems like promises were made before that they could do something, but you guys do not have to give them the variances, okay? Another thing no one is talking about is building on ledge. There's radon gas underneath ledge typically and stuff. It's just not the best thing. So, I mean, there's, you know, to have faith in the city, we have to have faith in the zoning board, the planning board, the city councilors. I'm kind of disappointed Councilor Kane is not here. There was a city council meeting last night. He should be here representing the people in Ward 3. I just love the Ward 3. It's time for us as the people to unite and stand together. And just, you know, maybe it would make sense to maybe continue this matter or withdraw this without prejudice tonight. So to pass this tonight, it would be one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Thank you very much.
Anyone else here? Opposed or undecided? Call it part of hearing closed. You know, they take buildings downtown in the middle of districts and blow out 90-foot holes. That's what they do. That's what people do today. And they do it safely and they do it nicely. And they build nice projects. And anyone that's been in the construction business know the safeties that are taken today that are probably, a lot of the times, cost prohibitive to buildings, even downtown Boston. And I've been in the construction business my whole life. And it's gotten so safe out there, it's really, it's bizarre what contractors have to do. So, and I know what these blasting people have to go through and really the serious things that they have to do. And I'm not afraid of that at all. I'm glad that we have those laws to protect them today. And this building's been seen in this project, oversighted by all independent parties. Nothing to do with us, the planning board, anything. Independent parties that look for errors in their application. And none have been found here. So this has been going on a long time. I know you live there, you're worried. Someone talks blasting, it freaks you out, and that's fine. And people have a right to an appeal. They have a right to appeal anything in this world. But what went on and what this project was designed in the beginning to what it is now, for that hunk of land and what has to be done, I'm going to be voting in favor. I think it's a good project. I think it's the end of the city. It's Granite Street, and it's a major throughway, and that's what we got to stop building in downtown Quincy. We got to stop building big buildings, not little buildings. So I'll be voting in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I too will be voting in favor.
Likewise in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Harrington.
Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Harrington, could you speak to the issue of the notice that you brought up by the people signed?
When this case was first filed, we got a certified abutters list last year. That was the list that was used for the planning board notices that went out. We went out of our way and got a new abutters list just a few weeks ago, or a month ago, 6 weeks ago, for this hearing. We didn't use the same abutters list that we had for the planning board because it was a year old at that point. So we went and got a second certified abutters list to make sure we had current certified list for this board. So when this notice went out, it went to the correct people for anybody who's almost, changed hands during the year since we filed the planning board application. The meeting that took place at the Sons of Italy, that was Councilor Coughlin's neighborhood meeting. He scheduled that meeting. We had it at the Sons of Italy, and we went to that meeting and presented the plans to the neighborhood that night. That wasn't a planning board meeting. The planning board meeting happened later. The first planning board meeting wasn't until May or June of last year.
Is there any question in your mind that the applicant has not met the requirements for notice for this hearing?
Absolutely none. We're required to give notice to everybody on the certified abutters list within a 300-foot radius, and we got that list from the assessor's office, and that's what was used by your clerk to send notices to the neighbors.
Thank you. Be voting in favor.
I need to reply to that now.
Man, that part of hearing's closed. You have a right to do later what you'd like. You have a comment? He will himself. You have a comment?
I mean, I think that the least of my worries is the blasting. I think that they're fully vetted, just like you said, Chairman. And
I'll be voting in favor.
My question was,
Question?
how many meetings did Kevin Conklin have?
One.
Just one? And it was very well attended?
Yeah, it was a full room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the original building that was proposed on this site was a 52-unit building. And so if you can imagine that footprint, the footprint was exactly the same, except it was 52 units, and the building went all the way back to within 10 to 15 feet of the rear property line. And so it was reduced from 52 units to 42 units, and then reduced to 32. And that was one of the reasons why it took so long at the planning board. The other major change that was made to it was that in the original application, there was a driveway that ran up this side of the building. So there wasn't an entrance on the front of the building. You came in a driveway here that turned into the first floor garage, and the driveway raised up an elevation toward the back of the site, and you turned into the second floor garage, and all the access was off this driveway. But that building with the driveway on the side, because this is the worst part of the ledge here, that was estimated to be 29,000 cubic yards of material would have to come out for that design, as opposed to this one, which is 11,000 cubic yards. So we cut the amount of blasting down by a third for where we originally started, because we did hear it from the neighbors at that neighborhood meeting. They were very concerned about blasting, and they had serious concerns about noise in their homes.
Have a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, matter number 16-042, 7-15 Parker Street LLC, Anton Cello, manager for a special permit and variance to construct a new 32-unit residential building on the premises numbered 151 Granite Street, also known as 7-13, 15-21, Parker Street, Quincy. I make a motion to grant the variance and grant the special permit.
Second. On the motion, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.